For day 12, I am looking out for you if you are feeling sick and tired, because I am still sick, but I did make it down here today. I have a really great activity for you if you cannot get out of bed or you do not have time to paint, but it's still good and enriching. For day 12 of Daily December Art Candy, I invite you to follow some color experts, and I have some really good recommendations. These wonderful humans, these resources can be divided up into 3 categories: how color works, pigments, and history of color. So I'd like to start with how color works, and the person I want to tell you about is Peter Donahue. He goes by Color Nerd on YouTube and TikTok, and he goes by Art Pete Repeat in Instagram. He is a great teacher, and he's able to break down some complicated ideas in very concrete and visual ways, and it's a pleasure to learn from him. He is a great teacher. Next, we have Mr. Pigments. He is a material applications specialist in the coatings industry, and he goes really in depth about pigment. So this one is for a really hardcore pigment nerd, and he even greets people, "Hello, nerds." So it's like that, okay? So you got to really be into pigments to follow him, and it is totally worth it. It's such a pleasure if you're really into pigments to listen to him talk about pigments. Then we have Joanne Green. She goes by Joanne Green Art on Instagram and on YouTube. She has some beautiful videos documenting herself making pigments from natural substances. It's a very visually poetic experience to watch her process. And I'm happy to see that she has a book coming out, and I will definitely be buying that. Lucy Mays of London Pigments collects many of her sources of pigment from the waste stream in London. Waste stream means things that are thrown away, things that are discarded. And this might include something like finding old fishing wire and precipitating pigment from it and making a verdigris, or I don't remember how she made synthetic malachite. Anyway, she's London Pigment on Instagram, and I believe she actually has a class coming up about how to make pigments online. So if you go to her Instagram, you can pre-register for that. I've had at least one class from her, and I thought that she was lovely, and I learned a lot from her. Now let's talk about the people who find pigments. There's Heidi Gustafson. She goes by Heidi Lynn on Instagram, and she does have a book that is in its 2nd printing that's available now. So she's really fun to follow on Instagram, as well as Pigment Hunter. Pigment Hunter on Instagram. Scott Sutton has, I think he started out in the PNW, but then he went out to the desert, and he has a place to have workshops out there where he can find lots of pigments. If you're interested in just having your finger on the pulse of all the people in the pigment game, you might consider following Pigments Revealed International. They have online symposiums, classes, and conferences, and I believe also a newsletter. The history of pigments is so cool and interesting, and even better when you get to hear about it in a really beautifully well-edited, well-articulated way. If you want to hear some really good color stories, head over to Jackson's Art Supplies, both on YouTube and Instagram. And then on Instagram, look for the panes that include the name of a color. And what you will get is this wonderful person named Evie Hatch. She's such a good storyteller about color, and these videos are so well edited, and they are truly art candy. You can also, on YouTube, if you want to watch it not on Instagram but on YouTube, go to the shorts and then look for Evie's face. And you can also follow Evie herself on Instagram, and on her website she has articles that she's written about pigments as well. She's so knowledgeable, and it's a pleasure to read her work and listen to her talk about pigment and color. I hope that these are useful for you. I have really enjoyed following all of these folks. Let me know if there's anybody who you like to follow or read or watch who's an expert in color and pigments. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.